Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, a certified consulting hypnotist and a life coach. Uh, Today, I want to talk about my philosophy about weight control and weight management. Uh, in my practice, and I've been in practice here in the Chicagoland area for 30 years, there are three areas of focus. I talked about the first one last week, which is oncology, cancer care. The second area of focus is bariatrics or weight control. And I've got a long history of success working with people who are trying to bring their weight under control, even with those who are morbidly obese or preparing for bariatric surgery. But I have a different take on how to do this kind of hypnosis than a lot of my colleagues. They will tend to recognize specific recipes or recommend Weight Watchers, their point system, or Jenny Craig, or liquid protein diets. And years ago, when I was just in training, I sent away for material by a hypnotist that was supposed to be helpful in learning how to do this form of work. And what I got back was a bunch of recipes, which is silly. In fact, I tried them and they're lousy. Uh, I have an immense respect for food. I am a former chef. I entered the culinary union when I was 15 years old. I would do 4 years as an apprentice, 5 as a journeyman. An executive chef's license was within reach, except I felt my call to ministry, went back to school, retrained, and my life took a different direction. But I was happy as a chef and as a cook. And to this day, I am a very serious foodie. And Lindsay and I basically don't eat out unless the restaurant we're eating at is cooks better than I do. And that's a pretty high bar. They either have to have something like sushi, which I don't do, or they've got a great big pizza oven that gets to 1500 degrees, which my oven can't. But we only eat out when we're eating up. So as a serious foodie, I don't want to tell people to restrict what they're eating. I want people to enjoy food. I love food. My approach when I work with clients in weight management is to help them transform their relationship to food. I find a lot of people have a completely irrational relationship. Food is fuel. We want it to be delicious. We want it to be wholesome. We want it to be ecologically and environmentally sound. We want it to be sustainable, all of those things. But fundamentally, it's fuel. It is not a sentient creature. You can't have a relationship with it. I once had a client say, I may not always have my fiance, but I can always have a baked potato with sour cream. And somehow that made sense to her. It's a completely irrational statement. A lot of people will eat for emotional reasons, though, and they've trained themselves to think that somehow this food is going to make them feel different. Or they have a relationship with it that tries to replace sexuality or spirituality or community. It can't do any of those things. It's not sentient. It's not something that can have that kind of a function in your life. It's fuel. So getting people to that understanding is the core of my approach. The textbook that I use for my weight management clients is a book that's been around for a long time called French Women Don't Get Fat by Mireille Guiliano. It's available in all formats, still very much in print. Guiliano came to America from France as an intern, working with a company, a champagne company that I believe she's now CEO of. And she immediately gained 40 pounds because she was eating like an American. And when she went back to France, at the end of her internship, she quickly shed those 40 pounds. And she realized that what happens is that people in France eat small portions of delicious food slowly. In America, people eat large portions of relatively flavorless food quickly. And if you eat quickly, you eat more, because by the time your brain has produced the hormone that tells it to stop eating, which is produced slowly, if you're eating quickly, you've already overeaten by the time you've got enough of that hormone to tell you to stop eating. If you eat slowly, there's plenty of opportunity to have that hormone produced. When Lindsay and I go to Las Vegas, we often will have, chef's tasting menus, and we're at the table for 4 hours. The last time I was there, we had a 15-course meal, but I lost a pound because the portions were delicious, very flavorful, served slowly, and very small. And so that was the secret of what is sometimes called the French paradox, which is in France, we have an entire nation whose national cuisine is basically everything American nutritionists say is bad. It's based on cream and butter and lard. It is not what our nutritionists recommend. But on the whole, in France, we don't see an overweight nation. They don't have juvenile diabetes. They don't have runaway heart disease unless they start to eat like Americans. Once KFC and McDonald's get in there, the problems begin. Guiliano suggests that you want to avoid an overfocus on food. And if you deny yourself something that you really, really want, you just create an obsessional overfocus. So her whole thing is have it. Have it at the best quality, but have a small portion. A small portion of the flavorful food you crave. Eat it slowly, and it will satisfy. There are other things in her book too, that we work with our clients on. But fundamentally, the idea is to get the portions down and increase the satiety by eating mindfully so you enjoy every forkful. There are lots of tools for this. There are scoops of appropriate portions. There are plates with special designs on them that show you how much should go on, different kinds of food should go on a plate. There are digital scales. There are technique of trying to use your hand to figure out portion sizes. They all work. I was doing a workshop in weight control at one point, and we would the students all went out to lunch together, and I was at the table, and I'm watching this one woman who was complaining that she couldn't lose weight, and I'm watching her as she's chewing, the fork is already on the way to her mouth with the next fork of food. She was literally pushing food down her throat with her fork in a continuous stream. She wasn't eating slowly, and as a result, she ate too much. So have what you really want. Have it in an excellent quality. Keep the portions down. Eat it slowly, and you won't crave more. That's one of my core approaches. The other thing, learn to cook. We're dealing now with a generation of people who were never taught to cook by their parents. They don't know the difference between baking and roasting and broiling and braising. If it doesn't come out of a can or a box and go into the microwave, they don't know what to do with it. And if you're eating prepared foods, you are always going to overeat because there is abundant sugar, there is abundant salt. The stuff isn't healthy. And if you eat more of it, you're going to gain weight because the food industry has done research to try to get you to eat more. Plates, tableware. When I was an apprentice chef, the standard restaurant plate was 12 inches with a 3-inch rim, 6-inch food surface. You can't even buy a plate like that anymore. The typical restaurant plate is like 14 to 18 inches, often with no rim at all. So large portions look smaller. The flatware, the tableware. Go into an antique store and look at the knives, forks, and spoons from your grandmother's generation, and they will look to you like they came out of a dollhouse. Because modern place flatware is a third larger. Wine glasses are double the size. So we've lost the ability to regulate our sense of what we're eating. And if you're just eating prepared foods, they've done research in particle size and ratios of sugar to fat to make it easy to chew so you eat more and eat faster. You're buying a con. Learn to cook. Cook with high quality ingredients, small flavorful portions, and your weight will be controllable. I run a scratch kitchen here. The only product I buy prepared is mayonnaise, and I could make that myself, but I don't go through it fast enough, and I would constantly go back because it would have no preservatives in it. So no prepared foods. Eat whole foods. Learn how to cook. small portions, learn to make them flavorful, eat them slowly. The final thing is what we call the sugar divorce. There is an incredible amount of sugar in the American diet. One of the things I eat a lot of is cauliflower rice because on the diet that works best for my body, I want to avoid carbohydrates, so I don't eat rice. But I'll take a head of cauliflower, blitz it in my food processor, and saute that in butter or whatever, and have that as a side. The Trader Joe's sells a pre-riced cauliflower rice. I mean, I don't understand why. It takes just a second with a food processor to make it yourself. But if you look at the ingredients of this pre-riced cauliflower rice, it's got sugar in it. That's how they keep it from sticking. There's sugar in everything. And if you're not cooking from scratch, you're eating a lot of sugar. So we do a sugar divorce here. We don't recommend that you eat any sugar. If you went through my pantry, you would find one unopened jar of artisanal honey that a friend gave me years ago and I keep out of sentimental value. We don't eat it. There is no sugar in the building, not in my pantry, not in my kitchen. And once you lose the taste for sugar by stop using it, once the bacteria in your microbiome and your gut change, you will discover that you don't like sugar. If you get something that's too sweet, it doesn't taste good. So that's what you have to do. Once you start eating healthy, you'll get sick if you try to eat unhealthy. Therefore, it becomes self-reinforcing. So that's my philosophy of weight control. Don't eat for emotional reasons. Don't try to replace spirituality or sexuality or sociality with food. You can't do that. Enjoy what you really want in the best quality, but in small portions, and eat it slowly. And if you do that, learn to cook so you know what you're eating and not eating a lot of additives that are intended to make you eat more or hurt you, and get the sugar out of your diet. If we discovered sugar today, we would ban it as a toxic substance. The sugar industry years ago did research at Harvard about the effects of sugar in the American diet, and the outcome was so bad, they paid off the scientists and never published the research. Because sugar predisposes to 11 different forms of cancer and a whole bunch of other illnesses. Instead, they engaged in a media campaign to convince the public that the culprit in the American diet was fat. Not. Fat is the flavor channel. Fat is what makes food taste good. So you can do small portions, eaten slowly. So that's my philosophy. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. And what's more, I hope you'll put some of it to use in your own life. Next week, I'll be back at 2:30 on Saturday, Central Time, and I'm going to be talking about the third area of focus in my practice, which is the hypnotic enhancement of natural fertility. As always, if I can be of help to you, if you want to know how my services might be beneficial, please feel free to reach out to me, and thank you for giving me your time and attention today.